Before you get into tonight's story, I want you to get comfortable, turn the lights down, because this is not just something you watch. This is something you listen to. Welcome to Diamond TV, Stories That Linger. Have you ever noticed how your minds get louder at night? Not during the day when everything is moving fast, but at night when it's finally quiet. That's when my thoughts starts traveling, and sometimes they take me to the places that feel more real than my actual life. At night, I picture myself differently. I see myself as a successful businesswoman, living in a beautiful home, a fine husband who understands me without me explaining everything, two confident kids who sees me as more than just someone surviving day to day, a life that feels peaceful, stable, intentional, completely different from the one I live when the sun is up. Because during the day, I step into a world full of bright lights, loud music, and non-stop energy. From the outside, it looks exciting. People laughing, money being spent, attention everywhere. And in that world, I'm what some people would call a baddie. Confident, put together, unbothered. But when people don't see, it's how tiring it gets, playing the same role every night. After 3 years in that environment, every night started blending together. Same songs, same conversations, same people trying to prove something, same energy that once felt fun, but now just feel repetitive. And I remember thinking, this can't be all it is. When I first started, I made a promise to myself. No drama, no attachments, no getting distracted. Just focus on the money. Get in, get out, stay in control. And for a long time, I did exactly that. But eventually, something inside me started asking questions I didn't want the answer to. Like, what happens when the music stops? Who am I when nobody's watching? What am I building besides a routine? That's when my imagination became my escape. After work, after a long shower, when the lights were low and everything finally slowed down, I would just lay there and let my mind wander. And in my mind, life felt softer, safer. There was no pressure, no expectations, no pretending. I could create whatever I wanted, feel whatever I needed, fix things that I didn't feel right in my life. And my thoughts, people were easier. Situations made sense. Nothing hurt. And there was one person who started showing up in those thoughts more than anyone else. Brett. Now, Brett is someone who comes in the club regularly, confident, successful, persistent in a way that never felt forced. He had been trying to talk to me since the first day I noticed him. Always respectful, always direct. And every time I turned him down. Not because he did anything wrong, but because I didn't want to open any doors. Still, for some reason, he stayed on my mind. I could be across the room, busy, focused, doing my job. And somehow, I'll feel aware of his presence. Like my thoughts were paying attention even when I didn't want them to. And that bothered me because I had worked hard to stay emotionally disconnected, to not get caught up in anything. So instead of exploring it, I kept it in my imagination. I left a version of him in my mind, stay perfect, predictable, safe. But real life doesn't stay in your head forever. One night, I caught myself wondering if thoughts alone could create energy between people. If maybe things we feel internally somehow show up externally. And that idea stayed with me, so I tested it. I watched him, not obviously, just enough to notice the way he moved, the way he carried himself, the way he seemed completely grounded in his space where everyone else was trying so hard. Then he walked up to me, not dramatic, not like the version in my imagination, just real. And suddenly, all those control thoughts I had built started feeling fragile. Because in my mind, I was always in control. I decided what things meant. I decided how far anything went. Nothing could catch me off guard. But standing there in front of him, I couldn't control the moment anymore. Reality doesn't follow the script you create in your head. It asks you to respond, to feel, to be present, whether you're ready or not. And that's what shook me, not him, but realizing I wasn't as detached as I thought. Because reality doesn't follow the script you create in your mind. That's when I understood something I hadn't admitted to myself before. Fantasies feel powerful because we control every part of them. But real life asks you to respond, to feel, to be present without editing the outcome. And standing there in that moment, I realized how easy it is to hide inside the version of life we create mentally instead of facing the one actually happening. The mind is powerful. It can build entire worlds, convince you they're better, convince you they're safer. But if you stay there too long, you start losing connection with what's real. And sometimes growth doesn't happen in the life we imagine. It happens in the uncomfortable moments we can't control. So, Dimes, if you just listen to that story I just told you guys, please leave in the comments and let me know, have you ever been through something like this situation where you let your mind play games on you? Like, because when you can imagine something in your head, you can make it picture perfect just the way you like. You can make anybody be exactly who you want them to be. And then sometimes you get snapped into reality and it's like, wait, what? This person is not who I thought they was, It's a difference between the fantasy and reality. And sometimes it's better off just to live in the fantasy world, because once you try to live that fantasy out loud in the real world, you get hurt, you get heartbroken, and it's not what you wanted it to be, or it's not something you was prepared for or ready for, because we can't predict the future. We can't predict people, how they move. And, I just thought this was a beautiful story to try to explain that to you guys. If you ever been through anything like this, where you let your guards down and you decided to try something because you thought about it so much, and when you tried it, it wasn't what you thought it was going to be, total opposite. And you kind of wish you never went in that direction. Leave in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's communicate about it, and, build our community here. Dimes. You guys are my dimes. And I know a lot of people been through things like this in their life. And I know it's a lot we can talk about. So thank you so much if you made it this far into this video. Stay tuned for the next video story by your girl Diamond TV. Stories that linger.